We're going to make a triple row wrapped bracelet, and there's a few things you'll need before you begin. Firstly, a tape measure. You'll need some 1.5mm super soft leather. You'll need some 4mm beads and some 6mm beads. On this particular project, I used about 27 of the 6mm beads, and interestingly enough, I needed about 130 of the 4mm beads, so it's more than 4 times. A nice decorative button. I've got 2 needles here. These are the split needles, but you can use normal beading needles, but I love these because you can take them on and off very easily. And then you've got a choice of thread. Now I'll demonstrate in the number 3 high tenacity polyester because it's in black, but the other examples I've made, I've used the fine monofilament because it's invisible. The only difference is really, if you use this type of thread, it'll show up on the leather, which can be decorative, so it's really, the choice is up to you. And lastly, of course, is your work surface, which I'm going to be using the macrame board because it makes it very easy, but you can easily use a bead mat with some pins to make the bracelet as well. Now the first thing to do is determine the length of the leather that we need to cut. So to do that, I'm just measuring a bracelet that I've made earlier, and this measures about 7.5 inches. So for that, I need to cut 2 pieces of leather, and they need to be about 26 inches long, which is about 66 or so centimeters. If you require a larger bracelet, perhaps cut 28 inches or more if you feel you need that. And likewise, if you want a smaller one, maybe go down to 25 or 24, but if it's your first time, maybe just stick at 26 if you want a smaller one. It's better just to lose a little bit of leather. Now I'm going to prepare my thread. In this instance, I'm going to be using the high tenacity polyester thread, because it's very strong, but it's a dark in colour and easy for you to see. You need to cut yourself about 1 metre to 1.5 meters. And if you see here on the bracelet I've made earlier, it gives you a really lovely decorative edge. So it's actually enhances the bracelet, I think. Now, I've got my needle attached at one end, and I've got my other end here, and I've got my split needle. Now you prepare your split needle by basically opening up the center with your fingernail and then just popping the thread inside and letting it snap shut, and that's enough to hold the thread in position. So we're ready to go with our thread. The next thing I'm going to do is I have my leather, and I've folded it in half, and the loop of it I'm just going to pop over the top of the macrame board, and the other end I've put into 2 of the slots at the bottom. I've also got my thread underneath, and I'll just find the center point of it by putting my 2 needles together, and just so I know that's the center approximately. So then I'll just pick up my first bead and thread it on, and I'll pop that underneath the leather as well, and I know that that's sitting into position. The next thing to do is I'm going to take this needle, which is now under, and over the thread, over this leather cord and through the bead, and just slide that along. And then I'm going to get the other needle, which is also underneath, and I'm going to bring that over and around and through the bead from this direction here, and pull that along as well. Just make sure you don't get it caught in the bottom thread. Now once they're pulled up, then I can pull it up a bit tighter, and also what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring it right up to the top of the leather, as far up on the board as I possibly can, And then the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take this needle and bring it back under the thread, under the leather cord, and up. And I'm going to bring it back through the bead. And I'm going to do this as many times as I can, back and forth, so that I get, you know, as much as I can get the thread through the bead, so that I get a nice strong finish here. Because the more times I put it through, the firmer it's going to be in position. And then this one here again you can see it's over the leather, so I'll just bring it under the leather and pop it back through the bead. Here it's starting to get a bit full now, but that's okay. There we go. And I'll just bring this one through too, and then I'll pull it up as tight as I can on both sides, so that I'm very happy with its position, and then again slide it up as close to the top of my loop here as I possibly can. So I'm happy that these bead is secure and in the correct position, and now I want to begin. If you happen to have purchased our previous DVD on leather wrapping, you'll know that we started with both of the threads on top, and then we came up under and through and then crossed the bead. But my son, who's left-handed, showed me another method, and I'll show it to you here, and I actually think it's a bit easier. So what we want to do is start with the threads coming out from the bottom. So if your threads aren't coming from the bottom, just pop your thread underneath the cord, so that you're originating from underneath the leather. And then we'll just get a bead. And what you do here now is you pop one bead through, but don't worry, if you prefer the other method, you can use that. So one bead through, and then take your needle under the leather then. And then again through the bead this way, and then straight under the leather. So I actually think that doing it this way cuts out a whole step, makes it a bit quicker. You still get exactly the same nice decorative pattern, it just goes that way instead of going that way, which is interesting. So there we go. So we'll do another one. Another bead. Both of my threads are coming out from underneath. Go through the bead, if you can find the hole. There we go. Through the bead and under the leather. That way. And then get your other needle. And with your needle going in the opposite direction, it's, so you can see that's the opposite direction, through the bead, and straight under the leather. And then what you do is just tidy it up. So we'll tidy that previous one up, and then tidy this one up too. So don't worry if it gets messy. You can just pull on the threads to put them in place, and then pull on these. There we go. So now it's just a repetition. So bead on underneath the leather this way, and then bead on underneath the leather this way, and then before it pulls all the way up, just remember to tidy up the previous one, and then you can pull that one up. Okay, so that's just a repetition all the way down. So I'll do one more, and then I'll meet you at the other end. So through the bead, and under the leather. Now I'm just on my last bead now, and I've come under, and I'll just go through here and underneath and pull this up. And what I'm going to do is I'm now going to measure to make sure that I'm happy with the size. So if I was going to, I can just wrap it around my wrist. Obviously that's where the button's going to be. And then if there's a button on the end of there, that's pretty nice. So I'm happy with that. So I now know I can quite with confidence finish this bead off. So I'll just pop this back up onto here and come down here and just finish this bead here. So I'll just pop these two bits of, that's what I like about this board, it's easy on and off. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'll just, my needle's underneath, I'm going to bring it around and through again on this side, just like I did before. And then I'll do the same on this side, around and through again. And pull that up. And just make sure it's all pulled up nice and firmly. And then, I mean, if you can go around and through again, or what I'm going to do is I'm just going to do a little knot on this side here. And how I will do that is I'll just make a loop here around the leather. Where is it? Come back here. It's got a life of its own, this cord. Okay. So now you can see the loop. You can see my loop with the leather, and then I'm just going to pop my needle through, and then I can pull it up nice and tight. And I'll do the same on the other side. So I just make a loop. See, there's my loop. And then I'll take the thread through again and bring it up. See, now I've got my knot there. And there it is on this side as well. Now what you can also do, if you like, to be really doubly secure, is I'll just take this side through to this side, if it fits. Behave yourself. There we are. So I'll just take the needle through to this side. And then I've got my two threads here that I can tie off on this side. So what I'll do is I'll just get rid of the needles for the moment. And I'm just going to tie both of these knots, and I'll turn it sideways so you can see a little better. I'm just going to tie both of these knots together in a surgeon's knot. So I'm just going to cross them over here like this, and then through the middle. Then I'll hold the knot, and as that one's going up on the top, I'll bring it underneath and through. See, and then I've got quite a lot of knot there, and I can pull that in nice and firmly. And I'll just do one more, and then I'll be able to trim off the thread. Now if you want to, you could weave it back in, but I think what I'll do is I'll just give that a little drop of glue later on, just to be 100% sure. But these two knots should be enough. There we go. So I'll just trim it short for now, and then later on I'll come back and just give that the tiniest little drop of glue, and then I can cut it really close. What you can do if you want to at this point is finish, and you could bring your two leathers together here and tie a knot. Tie or sew this onto the end, and there you have a lovely single bracelet, which is actually quite nice. But what we're going to do today is we're going to add another 2 rows. So again, I'll pop this back up here out of the way and put this back down in place on the board. I've got my 26 inches of leather here, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to attach it to the board, but as you can see here, here's the length of my first one. So I want to take it up a little bit shorter just to give myself just a cat's whisker extra, and I'm going to then put that into the board here. So I know it's just that little bit shorter than this one, and then I'm going to bring it right up to the top and just pop it in there for now, and that's all I'm going to do. And now I'm ready to begin again. So this time I'll bring in my 4mm beads, and remember we need 4 times the amount of these, actually more than 4 times. So for my 27 6mm beads, I need about 130 4mm beads. So here we go. So obviously this is going to take a little bit longer than the single center section did. I'm going to get myself some thread, and I want to cut myself as long a piece as I can. However, you can start and end with new thread and tie it in here as you did before. Now I'm ready to begin this side. I've got my thread and my 2 needles again, and I'm going to start it, and I'm going to start down here in the same way that we started at the beginning. So I'm going to bring my needle under both cords again, under these 2, until I find the halfway position. I'll just bring these 2 needles together, and then I can bring them up to there's the middle, and then I'm going to, and you might notice I've bent the thread because I'm using about 2 meters worth of thread here, and I've got a very long tail on each end because then my thread's a workable length. And then I'm going to just thread my bead on and bring it down to the center and underneath the leather, just like we did before. And I'll just get myself sorted. There's the other needle here. And again, as I did before, I'm going to bring one through this way and take it this way, and one through this way and take it through that way. And then bring it up nice and firmly, and I want it to sit right there level with this bead. So again, I'm going to take my thread under the leather, just pull it up, and I'll go back through that bead. That way. And then I'll take this one and go back through the bead the other way, I need to bring it under the leather again. Oops. Under the leather again, and then back through the bead, and I'll move it up into position in a minute. So don't split your thread. There we go. And then I'll just bring it up into position where I want it to be, and then I can pull it nice and tight. Okay, so now I'm ready to begin, and I know that that bead is secure. Now again, as before, you can start with your threads on top and do the method where you go under and then up, but I'm going to bring my threads to start with underneath the leather, so that I can use the same method that we've just used before. So I'll just pop this in under the leather, and I'm just going to bring it up through here now. There we are. So both of them are under the leather and they're ready to start. So I'll get my next bead, and here I'll pop it on, and then I'm going to go under the leather and up through here. So I think you'll find this method quite easy because you can just pop it through there, and that sits on that side, and then this one takes the bead from the other direction, just as we've done before, through the bead, who's being a bit elusive, and then under the leather on this side. There we go. And then when I pull them both up, hopefully they'll behave themselves. And there we are, I'm all in position. And I'm underneath the leather, and I'm ready to start with my next bead. So I'll do one more, and then what we'll do is I'll continue all the way along here until I get right down to the end, and then I'll show you how to go around the edge. So I'll just do this last one. So, ran away through the bead, and then just tip up the leather, and you'll sort of see where it needs to go. Thread can just go there, underneath, and up, and then just get your other thread, and again through the bead in the opposite direction and under the leather, and pull that one up as well. And tighten them up so that they're sitting nicely, and then you're ready to start your next bead. I've reached the end here now, and I'm level, and what I've done is I've repositioned the bracelet on the board, so you can see I've brought this down to the end, and I've just got the cords in here, and then up here I've just let that sit free, and I've brought this in, and you can see it's at a bit of an angle, so it's not such a distance, and I'm just going to continue up and around, and then as I get to here I'll just bring this around slowly with it, and then bring it down to here and carry on. So I'll do one or two and you'll see, but it's quite easy. It's still more of the same. You might, sometimes I find it easier if I go sideways to the board as well, but it's not difficult. I'll just bring that one up there, and then of course this one, as usual, goes through the bead and underneath. And what I tend to do is pull this one at the same time, and that brings it up nice and firmly for me. So I'll just slowly go around And as I go, this will just come around and then I'll bring it around. So I'll just do I'll do one more. And you'll see it's exactly just more of the same. In fact, it's a little easier because you don't have to worry about the bead on the inside of it. And that one just goes through and under. See? It's just going around. So I'll just follow it around. I thought I'd just show you as I'm here on the top and I've got the cord around. I'm actually going to just place it into the board opposite to keep it firm for me so that it doesn't flop around too much. It's just a little tip that might make life a little bit easier for you as you go around the bend or the twist. So I've come all the way down and around and I've met up with my last bead here, and if you can see, I've done what we normally do to finish off, is I've gone back and forth a few times around the bead, just like we do when we start, and I'm just going to take this through the last time through here. And bring it up nice and firmly. And then I'll take one of the threads, so I've got both of the threads on this side now. I'm going to take one of them under the leather and up through the other side, so that I now have both of my threads coming either side of this leather, and I'm just going to tie them off. So I'll just take the needles off my thread, and then I'm going to make the usual knot with one going through that way and one going through this way. Because I'm actually doing it around the leather, that will be quite a firm finish, and then I can do it again. So one through this way, one through that way, and probably just one more for good measure. Now, as I said before, you can just drop a little drop of glue on these knots to make sure they're 100% secure, and then tie off your thread. So that's pretty much the bracelet all done, and it's just time now to put on our button. Now I'm going to attach the button to the end of the bracelet, and how I'm going to do that is I'm taking the two central cords of leather and I'm going to just thread them into the bottom of the macrame board. And then I'm going to take these two sides and I'm going to do what's called a square knot. Those of you that have been making the macrame bracelets will know this, but I'll take you through it just in case you don't. You take the left hand cord and make a D shape over these two base cords, and then you take the right hand cord and you take it over the tail here and then under this intersection of these two cords with the first cord. So then I pull it up and it comes out inside this D. So I've got one on this side and one on this. It gives me a nice square shaped knot, and then when I pull it up, just gently, don't pull it all the way, just pull it up sort of so that it sits nice and flat, and that's the first half. Now the second half is a mirror image, but what I'm going to do when I make that is I'm going to thread on my button. Now this button doesn't have a shank large enough for two strands of the leather, so I'm just going to pop one through there, and then I'm going to make my second half of my knot. So here's my D. This is a little bit fiddly, but it's worth it in the end. Then take this side over and under the intersection here, so that then I've got my two threads, and this is coming up through the D. And now before I pull it up, I'm going to bring my button around and I'm going to lay it on top and in between these two threads, the two base cords, and then now I can slowly pull it up and it's going to sit, and I can just get that one there nice and just slowly pull it up, and there's my button sitting there very nicely. Now obviously that's not secure at this point, and what I'm going to do is now turn the bracelet over so we can work from the back. Okay, so now here's my first macrame knot, and here are my two base cords. And what I'm going to do is now put those two cords back down into the bottom of my board. You almost need 3 hands to do this, I've decided. Okay, and then, okay, now I just dropped a piece of paper on the floor. I'll just pick that up quickly because that's an important piece. That's for me to glue, and I'm going to be getting my glue ready, because now I'm going to do another 2 macrame knots. Now you think, which side does the D go? That loop there, that's the side with the D. So now here's the next one. I'm running out of leather, but I'm getting there. So there's the first one, and see I'm popping that down in there and pop that up there, and then I'm going to do the second half of my D, and so the D comes on this side now. There we go, and I'll just make it, and that comes up in through there, and that one goes down through there. And now what I'm going to do is I'm not going to pull it all the way up yet, because I'm going to get out my glue, and I'm going to put my piece of paper under here so I don't ruin my board. This is my gluing paper, as you can see, and then I'll just squeeze out the glue. Here it comes, and I'm going to put quite a bit of glue on all these threads here, and also on this base thread, because when I pull up this knot, all this glue is going to be inside. And the nice thing is this glue dries clear, and I've got 10 minutes drying time, so it's not a problem. And then it also dries waterproof. So now when I pull it up, I can pull it quite firmly, and it also doesn't matter, I can handle it, because this glue doesn't stick to your fingers and it doesn't ruin your skin. There we go. And now all I have to do is wait for it to dry. Now this has got a really nice knot. It's still flat, so I'll be able to wear that next to my skin and it won't be uncomfortable. And when it's dry, I'm going to cut it here and here and here. And if I take this off now, I've got a nice flat button, and I can't wait for it to dry so I can thread it through the end. And there is our almost finished bracelet.